Hello, hello! Welcome to another episode, another week of Speak Up with PT and Friends. Glad you're here, glad you're checking this out. In just a moment, my friend will be getting on, and it's going to be fun. I'll find out. Kamira, what's up?
Good, PT.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm home alone. My wife and kids, what's up, Orlando? My wife and kids are in New Braunfels hanging out with my mother-in-law. It's her birthday, or they're celebrating her birthday, and so I'm all alone, all chilling
That's
at the
cool.
house. Yeah, yeah. So, Kamira, last time I talked to you, I think rather you were about to or you just graduated high school. How is post grad life? What's it been like?
Work and hangouts. That's really about it.
Yeah, welcome to it.
Yep, it's
Yeah,
nice.
you work at Chick-fil-A, right? Still?
Yeah, yeah.
What does that mean?
Uh, I think today actually was my last day because like I had already put in my 2 weeks, so I'm
Oh, no
just,
way.
yeah. So
All
yeah,
right.
it's been fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, any of those jobs are always going to be fast and unpredictable, and
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, my dad was talking to me.
that's all good. What's up, Dad?
The PT says hi, Dad. He said hello. He said, "How are you doing?"
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking.
He said he's excellent. Thank you for asking.
Well, hey, Kamira, I wanted to just dive in because this is a fun thing to talk about, I think, and it's the generation that I preach to, but a generation that you're part of. And I wanted to talk to you, my friend, about Generation Z. Generation Z. And I know you know a little bit about this because we talked a lot about this when you were in student leadership at
Right.
Elevate and um, but for those who don't know, just a general boundary, Gen Z is they're people born from around the 1996 or late 90s timeframe to what I see most stats say 2010.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I kind of view it at. But before I kind of really went into stats and things that I found out, and actually an article that I want to discuss with you, I want to ask you all about what you know about Gen Z. Like, you don't have to give me like everything, but like, what do you typically think of when you think of your generation of Gen Z of your age group? What do you usually kind of categorize it? If you were to summarize your generation, how would you do that?
I think my generation's really creative. Like looking at
Mm,
it from like an artist standpoint, like I see, like with all the dance videos and on
mm,
TikTok and the creativity.
for
I think
sure.
my generation is extremely creative. And really fun. So that's what I like about it. So
Sure. No, that's definitely like a big one. If there's one thing I think you hit it right on the nose. Is just that I think your generation is itching to have its own identity and
hmm
to show its creative nature. And we'll kind of talk about that later too, because it's something I found in a stat. Um, but yeah, TikTok for sure is definitely. I think it was such an explosion because it gave such liberty to people to be creative.
hmm
And so let me ask you that. Why do you think your generation is so creative? Like, what do you think that kind of stems from?
I think honestly it comes from like, generations in the past and paying attention to how they did things, and
Mm,
it's like the Bible says, like there's nothing new under the sun. So it's like everything that we do is kind of like an updated version of what we saw back then,
mm,
I've recently started really like going skating. So I'll go to the
yeah,
skating rink and I've started to notice like skating videos and stuff, and it's like what people used to do, like in your generation and everything. It's like those people we've basically amped it up to where we're like doing more, and being more creative, having more fun with it, different
yeah.
visuals and effects. So that's what I think on that.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So some quick stats that I saw, and I wanted to talk about these two big things because obviously it's a big topic when it comes to. I mean, it's both Gen Z and millennials, but here I'll get to it. It's about smartphones. So here's a few stats about smartphones when it comes to Gen Z. Is that 95% of Gen Z has a smartphone? I mean, yeah. Over half, 55% of Gen Z uses their smartphone 5 or more hours a day, and over a quarter, 26%, use their phones 10 or more hours a day. Do you find that pretty accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Um, 65% of Gen Z is on their smartphones after midnight a few times a week or more often, and 29% is on their smartphones after midnight every night. Sound accurate?
Sounds
Yeah.
like me.
Okay, almost there. 31% of Gen Z feels uncomfortable if they are without their phones for 30 minutes or less.
Yep. Unless I'm at work. Yep.
Wow. I mean, and I'll even gauge this to me. But here's the thing with me, I was born in 91. So
Hmm.
I'm a young millennial. Or, yeah, I'm a young millennial. And so I'm kind of like on that close
Hmm.
to being a Gen Z, but didn't quite hit the mark there. Uh, but yeah, it feels awkward. Like, it just, like, even when you're supposed to be doing something else and the phone is right there, it's like, sometimes, like, if you get distracted, the natural reaction is to go pick it up and begin to look at it. And it's just, oh, it's crazy. Okay, so with all that being said, with all that about smartphones, why do you think Gen Z is on their smartphones so much?
I think, I mean, because the best way I can give it is from my experience and the way that I look at it as being, in Gen Z. Like, I think it's a comfort thing, a security thing, because if it's like
Hmm.
if I'm somewhere that, I'm at a party or something with a friend or whatever, and they're like talking to somebody else, I'm not just gonna stand there awkwardly like I'm gonna pretend to look at apps on my phone, like it's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of become something because you know how to work it, and it's like even though it's the same apps and you've already seen the photos and stuff, it's just
Mm.
something really addicting, like
Yeah.
I'll reach for my phone when I know it's something else I have to do, and I'm like, wait, why did you reach for this? Like, go do what you have to do.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a way to get our minds off of whatever might be going on presently.
Yeah.
It's, especially if you like have fear of missing out, if you've got
Mm.
that, it's always like, okay, did I get a notification or did this person text me? It could be a lot, to be honest with you. So I think
Yeah.
that's why.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't mean to get personal with all this, but do
Yeah.
you have all your notifications on, or are there some off, or do you have limits and stuff, or?
To be honest, it depends. Like recently, like even yesterday was a struggle because when you said you wanted to do this, I had to figure out a way to like get more storage on my phone so I could re-download Instagram because like it just wasn't working. And I was like, okay, I need to get a new phone, but I don't want to,
Yeah.
do that right now. So I found out a way to do it and I deleted Snapchat and like,
Mm.
Snapchat is actually more addicting for me than Instagram,
Hmm.
and it's like, okay, I found that I could go the whole day without really thinking about Snapchat. It's like it's not a necessity. Like I don't have to
Hmm.
have it downloaded right now. So let me
Right.
not. So I'm learning how to just kind of get away from all of that and enjoy the moment, you
Yeah, for
know.
sure.
So yeah.
Wow, that's good. No, I think it's a hard lesson to learn. And luckily, with me and I would say the younger millennials, we kind of grew up in this generation where we grew up where we didn't have all the social media stuff,
Right.
but it quickly became a part of our society, and so we kind of have this. And we'll kind of get to this later. We are what is it called? I'm gonna cheat here. Digital pioneers, where we kind of created some of the standards, but with that, we kind of created our own funnel where we kind of got stuck in some of these trends. And what I purposely try to do is I try to, because it's kind of part of my job to be so ingrained with students, I've had to set limits by, like, those timers that Apple has, and I'm sure other brands have it too, but just setting how much time you spend on an app. And so um, cool. Okay, so with all that being said, um, one more general topic before I get to this article, and that's just online use. And so here's some general stats. Generation Z are clocking up nearly 7 hours a day online. A considerable 1 hour, 13 minutes of this time is being spent watching online TV. What do you think about
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think that's pretty accurate.
that? Yeah, I think about all the time that's spent on Netflix and just anything like that. It's just, I mean, have you checked out what's the new one that just came out? Quibi. Have you checked that
Mm-mm.
out yet?
No, I haven't.
it's interesting. Like it's TV really literally designed for your phone to be able to
Wow.
watch it like this. I haven't checked it out yet, but it's an interesting concept. Um, okay, so YouTube is the firm favorite among the audience, having a 12% point lead over Facebook for monthly usage. Is that your jam?
Yep. Yep. That is the reason I'm on my phone for 7 hours is just listening to music. Like that's it.
YouTube. I mean, it's so like I'm gonna sound so old here, but I remember back when I like late 2000s when YouTube had just started coming out. It was just stupid videos of people doing stupid things, and there were short little videos, and it was so grainy and it looked horrible. And but now it's like they have YouTube Music and YouTube TV, and it's incredible to see in a good way sometimes, like how much good information is out there. Like
Hmm.
I've learned to do so many things from YouTube, and that's where I didn't get the stat out, but I remember learning about this is that a lot of both millennials, but especially Gen Z, have learned so much through YouTube. Would you
Hmm.
say that's the case for you as well?
Oh yes, oh yes. Like I listen to a lot of my artistry and stuff stems from, YouTube and stuff like that. So that's, I don't even pay attention to like Spotify and stuff like that. I'll rarely
Mm,
listen to music on any other platform. Like YouTube is just what I'm comfortable with.
yeah.
And especially since I can download it because I've got YouTube Premium, so I can just
Mm,
have all my downloads right there, and it's like that YouTube my go-to. One of the
wow.
first apps I'll open in the morning. So yeah.
That's crazy. Wow, that's it's so mind-boggling to me because, and this is just where I guess you and I differ, but to me, YouTube has always just been that bubble of, for a long time, anyways. It was that bubble of, this is stupid, funny
Hmm.
videos. But with you, and we'll kind of get to this in a minute, it's been such a part of your, I think, generation that it's just second nature. It's just, and
Yep.
it's evolved into this conglomerate of different things, such as the music part, and so that's really cool. Orlando, I like to talk about what you just said there, online school. I think that is such a unique aspect that we are now going to face, and I wonder how this is going to play out over the next few years. Is how much this pandemic and this switching to everything online, how this is going to change your generation. So let me ask you, Kimira, how do you think your generation is handling being at home more and having to be online more?
To be honest, like I think being online, I don't think it's hard because it's like it's something we're already doing for 7, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But now that it's having to be Zoom meetings and, still be attentive to other people and stuff like that, I think maybe it's a little harder,
Mm,
versus when you're talking to just somebody you want to talk to or whatever, it's like, okay, I can, put the phone up and, it could be at the ceiling or whatever.
right.
Now it's like on Zoom meetings, you're forced to have to talk to somebody and like like face to face. um I think maybe it might be easier for some people. Like introverts are probably having parties right now,
Hmm. Yeah.
but for extroverts, I know it's like for me it was a struggle. So that's why me and my friend, like after work, we go to the ice cream parlor, we go skating, we go to
Mm,
the park. Like I have to get out, outside of where
yeah.
I'm at because I can't look at the same four walls for too long.
Right. Have you have you noticed not just a four walls thing, but just a wear and tear for your screen, for screens in general, just being online so much? Do you feel that even with you and your generation?
Yeah, sometimes I feel it like if I'm on it for too much, like at nighttime and stuff, especially, it'll be like, okay, like, like get off, or whatever. It's like sometimes
Hmm.
like I'll just know like when it's like, okay, dog, you've been staring at this screen for forever, like
Yeah.
go do something, and it's kind of the reason why I cut out like, I really don't play video games, because like I was so addicted to them to where I could
Mm,
like play them until 3 in the morning, hop back up at 8 and get back on it and just be gone the whole day.
yeah.
And it was just like, okay, you've got to find something else to do with your time. And I think being at work has helped me because I'm not paying attention to what's on my phone. But in the back of my mind, when I hear the notification buzz in my pocket, it's like, okay,
Mm,
I'll have to answer that as soon as I get off work. And that's the first thing I do when I clock out, pull out my phone.
yeah.
And so, yeah, there definitely comes a wear and tear with it where it's like, okay, you need to go to sleep, you got to get up early or whatever. But it's just so easy to like go for it, and to just
Right.
be addicted. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
balance.
All right, so before we get to this article,
Mhm.
Orlando, to answer your question, I was aware of him. I didn't watch all of his stuff. There's only like a few episodes or a few episodes, well, a few videos that I watched of him. So to answer your question, Orlando, eh. But then again, I wasn't that big into YouTube. Now, granted, I was also kind of late to the game with social media, just because I don't know, just because I'm me. My first social media account was MySpace. Um, right? And I was late to the game to Facebook. Like, I didn't get my first Facebook account until I want to say maybe a junior in high school. But I didn't really get into it until like a few years later. And so
Yeah.
I was a little late to the social media game compared to everyone else. So, yeah. All right. So I found this article that I thought was very interesting. It's from Relevant Magazine. So they're kind of like a faith
Mhm.
based
Yeah.
company. And you know about Relevant? Of course you do, because I shared all
Yeah,
the
I
articles
remember
with
us for
you.
the ASL video. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We used to have to write on those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So the article is titled Four Things Millennials Can Learn from Gen Z. And so I wanted this to be an opportunity for, they brought up 4 points, and I wanted to ask you and basically try to learn from you in these different areas and to kind of get your perspective on it. That's cool with you. Um, so the first one
Mhm.
was you can go your own way. And I'll share a quote from here and kind of get your opinion on this. It said Gen Z is far more independent, more than any other generation before them. They're confident in their ability to figure things out on their own. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Honestly, that's where, like, in my relationship with God, honestly, that I'm having to really learn, like, really wrestle with, because it's like He'll tell me to do things one way, and I immediately be like, but this way's better, and it's like,
Mm,
well, you have to listen. Like, God knows why for a reason.
yeah,
And so it's just that working on obedience and swallowing my pride, humbling myself, and just going His direction, no questions asked.
yeah,
That's been hard, because I like to try to figure things for myself, and I don't like to try to have to go and ask him, like, okay, how do you want me to do this, whatever, like, 'cause sometimes, like, just being honest, like, sometimes it's hard to do so. And so,
right.
yeah, I believe we're definitely an independent generation. Like, you pay attention to, like, some of these artists and stuff, like, oh, the whole hot girl movement and hot girl summer and stuff, like the
Mm,
independence, So,
yeah,
yeah, that's yeah.
that's good. That's very true. I sense that very much so. Another quote from this first point is they are marked by a strong sense of wanting to make a difference and thinking that they
Hmm.
can. And they want to be social entrepreneurs. And I think if there's one thing I especially have learned about your generation is that you guys are not afraid to speak up. Do you feel like that's the case? Do you feel like that's kind of like a strong sense of your generation?
Yeah, I agree. Like, especially looking up with, like, everything that's been going, social media wise, with all the, things that are happening in the world, and everybody's like, okay, pay attention to this. Like, I'm actually really impressed with my generation, because they have the right attitude and the right heart about it. They genuinely
Mm,
want to shine a light on the problems and make a difference. And
right.
it's like they're seeking more information and trying to find out the truth behind what's going on. And I
Mm,
think that's really impressive, because it's like we're putting more effort than now, more than ever, into helping other people and to shining light on these things that were hidden. So
yeah.
I really do think so. I really do think so. I think it's impressive.
I think there was a stat that I read. I could be wrong, but it made the appearance that Gen Z was more likely to actually explore news and to like actually try to seek information than
Hmm.
like my generation and generations before, whereas we would just watch a certain news channel and just stick with that. But your generation seems to actually research a little bit more and try to get more details, and that's really cool in my opinion. I think that's really I mean, it just speaks to, I mean, granted, it's because you're not watching TV as much, but it also, I think, speaks to the fact that your generation is genuinely trying to seek truth. And that's really awesome because that
Hmm.
says to me that your generation can really be open to when we're all kind of get preachy here is to the gospel and to finding truth and finding the goodness of God. And so, do you think that has the same kind of correlation?
I think, like I said, like, it's really impressive just to see how, how much they research and how, get the truth put out there. It's like share this, share that, like, wherever you
Mm.
can, post the information, like this is what they don't want you to know. And it's
Hold on one second. I think my. Oh, you there?
mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're
I
good.
think it's my Wi-Fi. I just need to kill it. I heard what most of you said, and I'm pretty sure I agree with all of it. So, thank you. It'll come out in the regular stream. Okay, so point number two. I'm gonna try to speed this up. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Um, Four things millennials can learn from Gen Z, and it said to keep it practical. And here's a quote: Gen Z is likely to be more interested in stability and have more practical expectations for what a job looks like. And it's kind of talking about the workplace. And they kind of mentioned that millennials, my generation, when it came to the workplace, we look more for kind of like this emotionally like satisfaction in our jobs, and it seems like Gen Z is more practical, and they seem to differentiate between a job versus like a career. And so let me ask you that: do you feel like your generation, they sense more of a difference between work and passion? Or maybe I'm trying to kind of just wrap my head around this um, what they're trying to say here. What do you think about all that?
Right. Like honestly, I think that's true though, because it's like, with all the research and everything, they're paying more attention to how things are versus how they want them to be,
Mm,
and how they feel. And so it's like, you could wish things to be a certain way or whatever, but you got to take it for what it is,
right.
and to not be in denial. And and that's what I had to learn as well, with my job. It's like it got to the point where it's like when I first started, I was like, okay, this is going to be everything I thought it was going to be,
Mm,
emotionally. And then when I saw that that was not so, it's like, okay, this is practical. Like I still know what this job is truly about. And I also know what
mm,
I wish it would be, but I know that they're not the same.
yeah,
And so,
right.
yeah, I think there's a lot of paying attention to to being practical and to being, um, disciplined with these jobs and things of that nature, and, differentiating between that and a career, something that I want to do temporarily, something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I think there's like a strong like sense of entrepreneurship, because like I'm seeing that more than ever now, to see
Yeah, for
people
sure.
branch out into that. So yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
what I'd
Very
say.
good. Yeah, I think I really also, as a Christian, I think it comes down to knowing that short term versus long term, and that what God has called you for is always going to be bigger than just the here and now. And
Right.
I think your generation, even if they're not spiritual, they can kind of relate to there's a difference between
Hmm.
short term and long term, and I think that's really cool. All right, number three, four things millennials can learn from Gen Z. Not everything is meant to be shared. So I kind of touched on this earlier. Um, the millennials are digital pioneers, a generation that came of age as the internet went from a dial up novelty to an ever present fuel. Did you ever have dial up?
Mm-mm.
You know what dial up is?
No, that's what I'm saying. Probably not.
Okay, so to sum it up, imagine only being able to be online through a phone line. That's basically what it was. It was a phone
Yeah,
line.
no, we ain't no.
And
No.
so if you wanted to be on, so again, this is kind of like before cell phones really took off, but if you wanted to be online, you had to use up the phone line, which means that no one else could be on the phone. And so once you're online, you use the Ethernet cable. uh no one can call it. Yeah, I know, strange, it's weird, but I remember getting into fights with my parents about me trying to be on like AOL Messenger talking to someone, and my parents wanted to call someone. And so anyways, um I know it sounds silly, but that was. Um, does that sound ancient to you? Like I don't like,
It
because
does.
it's we're.
Like I'm
Do I
just glad
sound
I
really
didn't go
old when
through
I
that
talk like
phase.
that?
Like, yeah, I'm just really grateful I didn't go through that.
Okay, I now feel really old. Okay, back to the quote. But Generation Z is made up of digital natives who've never known a life without the internet. And so that means Generation Z is savvier than many millennials are, not just about how they use the internet, but also how they don't. So I want to ask you, as a general encompass, how does your generation, or how do you feel like your generation uses the internet, why they use it, and how much do you feel like you guys share your own personal lives? Because for me and millennials, I can definitely attest to this. It felt like when I was really getting on the internet, it felt like everything had to be shared. Like I had to mention every single thing and every detail. And so, what do you think it is with Gen Z?
I think honestly with Gen Z, like I think we get on our phones and the internet a lot to see what others are doing, and
Hmm.
to get our minds off of what we're presently going through or whatever the case may be. It's a distraction, if you're
Yeah.
focused on somebody else's life or focused on something else, that kind of takes the pressure off of what you're going through. Um, but I also feel like as far as Gen Z is concerned, when it comes to posting things, like I know I have a lot of friends who they'll post something and like, add the laughing emojis and stuff, but it's like deep down inside they really feel that way, And it's like
Hmm.
they're kind
Yeah.
of like throwing like those, reading between the line hints,
Right.
and I myself even do that sometimes, like, and that's the worst part because you can be really petty and put somebody on your close friend story and make them the only person that's on there. They see it, you delete it, like it's really bad. There's a lot of ways you can go, but I think honestly, like we share a lot of our personal lives and stuff like that. Like I try to, if I'm gonna share something about
Yeah.
my life personally, because I'll share the quotes here and there that I relate to, but if I'm gonna share something personally, like I gotta make sure it's for other people as well and not just for me. It's not me like venting my
Hmm.
frustration, talking about what struggles I'm going through and everything and how I can help somebody else heal from the same thing that they're going
Hmm.
through. So I think it's
Wow.
definitely a balance between putting all of your stuff out there just for no reason and, sharing specific things that God lays on your heart to share for others.
Well, that's good. And actually, Kamira, you kind of like almost perfectly segued into this next point. Um, Four things millennials can learn from Gen Z. Point number four is we've got a lot to give one another. Oh, you still there? Oh no, you there?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, okay, sorry, you're back. Okay. Um, so point number four was we've got a lot to give one another. And here's a quote. It says, Generation Z is a intercontinental culture all in its own, sharing a common cultural vocabulary in a way millennials never did. And more importantly, they share common values like inclusiveness, acceptance, and justice for the marginalized. Um, I will say what I truly think I love most about Generation Z is their love and their eagerness to have justice a part of their everyday lives. And so, let me ask you, why do you think that is? Why do you think Generation Z cares so much about the marginalized? And let me ask you this: how do you think it mirrors with our beliefs as Christians?
I think honestly, even whether or not that they realize it, they're doing exactly what Jesus is doing, what
Mm,
Jesus was doing, where he was always caring for those who weren't accepted. You can
yeah.
see like the little videos and stuff that are made to demonstrate, kids being bullied at school and then somebody comes along the way to help them, like
Mm,
a good Samaritan. And honestly, that's what I'm saying. Like, I really love that part of my generation because it's like it's like we know, I think we personally know how it feels to be treated as the people who were, kind of on the outside, and you've got the elders, looking, being like, okay, talking down on us and stuff and be like, oh, they're not that smart or, this, that, and the other. And I
mm,
think we just got so tired of it that we started, being the change we wanted to see.
right.
And I think
That's
that
good.
that's the most important thing is when you are the change that you want to see. And that's what I'm saying. Like Gen Z really it really showed the character of Jesus, whether they realize it or not, whether they believe in that or
Yeah,
not. Like, that's still when you are helping somebody, you're still showing God's love to that person.
right.
And so, like, I really just believe that the overwhelmingly like amount of support and love that all these different movements are getting for people to be accepted and fighting for rights and all these things, like you can't even be mad at them, because it's like, wow, like y'all are really truly trying to include everybody. You don't want
Right.
anybody. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important. I think that's really good too to have that heart posture.
Yeah. No, I think you said it perfectly. I think this generation, because they have a platform and because they have seen, and I'll say this, I think because you guys have more access to information than almost any other generation ever has before, you can see the injustice and you can see the marginalized more and you can
Mhm.
see a greater threat to freedom and all these different things. And so and seeing that, I think your generation has risen up and decided to, okay, let's speak out against this. Like, okay, we
Right.
see this, let's be more vocal about it. And I think honestly, if we as leaders now, and I'll consider that to you too, if we can as leaders, especially Christian leaders, begin to kind of parallel that to Jesus and go, look, you guys are
Mhm.
right on this, and let me show you how Jesus did this. I think we could
Right.
really spark a really cool movement in Gen Z and even this new generation, which I just learned about today, called Generation Alpha,
Mhm.
is what they're considering calling it. So
Oh,
anyways, interesting thought, which makes sense. It
okay.
starts over a. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think your generation is amazing, and I think truly and honestly inspiring, and one of my favorites just because of that alone.
Right.
So, any other thoughts about any of those things or about Gen Z in general? I have a question before someone asks, but if you get any other thoughts or comments about Gen Z?
I don't know, to be honest. Like I'm just, it just really has made me think and made me see like the positive things about my generation. Because it's like sometimes all you hear is the negative, and sometimes all
Mm,
it takes is a conversation and put your perspective in place to say, okay, like you're a lot better off than what you think. And so I
yeah,
think I think this is really eye opening for me. But I'm grateful to have had this conversation. So
absolutely. No, thank you so much for allowing me to listen and get to your perspective and your
absolutely,
insight. So it means a lot.
yes,
All
sir.
right, we have a question.
Okay.
Um, Orlando, you asked this question, and I'm going to say no, you're
Oh.
not. So this is an inside little joke because he asked me, he said something in a group chat the other day, and he said something about him being fat, and he is definitely the opposite of that. Um, so Kamira, I think that's all I got. I think I am. I didn't. I just got nothing else. I think you said everything really well, and I think you put it into really great perspective. So thank you again so much for choosing to take some
Absolutely.
time out and to just give me some insight and wisdom. And uh, thank you, Kamira. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. I had fun.
All right. Well, friends that listened and paid attention and watched, thank you so much for checking it out. Thank you for being here and for just being with us. And Kamira, again, thank you so much. Hope to talk
Absolutely.
to you again soon. Y'all have a great
All
night.
right.